Ukrainian military forces released footage which it said showed destroyed Russian military vehicles and a pontoon bridge in eastern Ukraine.
At 1:55 a.m., October 9th, 2025, the freezing mist hung low over the Dnipro River as the world's most dangerous trap was about to spring. On the surface, it looked like a miracle of Russian engineering, a newly constructed pontoon bridge glistening under the moonlight, linking two vital banks of the river. Russian commanders believed this was their long-awaited chance to push armor across and cut off Ukrainian positions on the east side. But what they didn't know was that this bridge wasn't real. It was Ukraine's perfect illusion, a fake bridge designed to lure an entire Russian armored convoy into destruction. Operation was planned for weeks. Ukrainian engineers, with help from NATO reconnaissance, built a decoy crossing using lightweight floating structures, inflatable pontoons, and radar reflectors to make it look solid from both satellite and drone imaging. To the untrained eye, and especially to Russian reconnaissance systems, it looked identical to a real military bridge. Even thermal signatures were simulated, with cleverly placed heating elements and discarded vehicles. It was the ultimate bait, and the Russians fell for it completely. By midnight, Ukrainian intelligence intercepted communications from Russian field units preparing a crossing. Dozens of T-90 tanks, armored vehicles, and supply trucks lined up along the muddy embankment, ready to roll. Their goal was to establish a forward bridgehead and claim another symbolic victory before the coming winter. Russian state TV was already preparing the headlines. Victory across the Dnipro. But as the clock struck 1:55 a.m., those dreams drowned with their tanks. The first wave of Russian vehicles moved confidently onto what they thought was a reinforced bridge. At first, everything seemed fine until the surface began to sink. Within seconds, the pontoon began to wobble, collapse, and split open. Metal shrieked, engines roared, and soldiers screamed as dozens of armored vehicles plunged straight into the cold, dark water. Panic erupted. Then, before anyone could react, Ukrainian artillery lit up the sky. Hidden in nearby forests and concealed bunkers, Ukrainian HIMARS and precision-guided mortars unleashed a storm of fire. Shells rained down on the remaining vehicles, still waiting on the shore. The first salvos struck fuel trucks and ammunition carriers, igniting a chain of explosions so massive it could be seen miles away. Russian troops scrambled for cover, but there was none. The fake bridge, now half sunken and burning, became a deadly trap, reflecting the flames across the water like a mirror of chaos. Drone footage captured the scene in stunning detail. You could see entire tank columns sinking beneath the surface and command vehicles being torn apart by explosions. Within 15 minutes, the entire crossing attempt was annihilated. Over 40 armored units were confirmed destroyed, along with at least 200 personnel. This wasn't just luck, it was strategic brilliance. The decoy bridge was part of a broader deception campaign, led by Ukraine's Special Operations Engineering Corps. They had been experimenting with fake targets, bridges, radars, and artillery sites for months. Their goal was to confuse Russia's satellites, waste their missiles, and lure them into kill zones. The Dnipro decoy was their masterpiece. Even NATO analysts were stunned by the realism. Using a mix of old Soviet design blueprints and modern 3D printed materials, Ukraine managed to replicate the reflection patterns that Russian satellites depend on. From orbit, it was indistinguishable from a genuine crossing point. Intelligence reports later confirmed that Russia had even deployed reconnaissance drones earlier that day and still couldn't tell the difference. At dawn, as the sun rose over the shattered riverbank, Russian field commanders were in shock. Moscow's official reports first claimed a temporary technical failure, but by the afternoon, the truth began to leak online. Drone footage uploaded by Ukrainian units went viral, showing Russian tanks sinking one after another, their turrets popping off underwater like corks. When the footage reached Moscow, even state-controlled media couldn't hide it. Angry families demanded answers. Telegram channels loyal to Wagner and other pro-war groups erupted in fury, calling the incident another betrayal from incompetent leadership. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky appeared on camera with a faint smile. Without mentioning details, he said, Some traps need no words, only patience. It was clear what he meant. The fake bridge had done more than destroy a convoy. It had humiliated the Kremlin once again. This was not just a single victory. It shifted the momentum of the river war. For months, Russia had been trying to re-establish crossings across the Dnipro after multiple bridge destructions. Every failed attempt cost them lives, fuel, and morale. The fake bridge incident, however, sent a chilling message. Ukraine could control not just the battlefield, but the illusion of the battlefield. Western analysts called it one of the most brilliant acts of deception in modern warfare. By spending just a fraction of what a real bridge costs, Ukraine wiped out hundreds of millions of dollars worth of enemy hardware. More importantly, it exposed deep flaws in Russia's intelligence and decision-making systems. Satellite data from NATO confirmed that within 24 hours, Russia halted all crossing operations in that sector. Commanders ordered a full review of reconnaissance procedures, fearing more traps. In essence, Ukraine had weaponized deception, and the psychological damage was enormous. Survivors from the Russian side described the scene as pure hell. Many soldiers said they didn't even realize it was fake until they were already sinking. One survivor, captured later by Ukrainian forces, said his unit had been told the bridge was inspected by engineers and safe for crossing. When asked how he felt when the bridge gave way, his only words were, "It was like stepping into death itself." On the Ukrainian side, the operation was celebrated quietly. The engineers who built the decoy were awarded medals for heroism. Drones continued to scan the area, ensuring no enemy rescue attempts succeeded. In a single night, Ukraine turned an ordinary river into a graveyard of steel. When the story broke internationally, it became a headline sensation. Western media dubbed it the bridge trap of the Dnipro. Military experts compared it to the legendary World War II deceptions, like Operation Fortitude, which fooled Hitler about the D-Day landing site. Social media platforms flooded with memes of sinking tanks and captions like Russia's new submarine division. Even China's state media subtly acknowledged the event, calling it a lesson in modern asymmetric warfare. Military academies began analyzing the operation as a case study in tactical deception, noting how it blended old-school engineering with high-tech warfare, satellite manipulation, signal interference, and precision artillery. Inside the Kremlin, Vladimir Putin was reportedly furious. Intelligence officials were summoned overnight, accused of criminal negligence. Sources close to the Russian Defense Ministry leaked that several officers in charge of reconnaissance were dismissed or reassigned within days. Putin demanded immediate retaliation, but even his generals warned that morale among the troops was collapsing. Behind closed doors, Russian media censorship tightened. Still, leaked footage kept surfacing. It was impossible to hide. The evidence was everywhere. Thousands of Russian citizens saw their sons and brothers drown, not in battle, but in a trap of their own army's arrogance. Weeks later, Ukrainian engineers dismantled what was left of the fake bridge, proudly raising their flag on the riverbank. The sight became symbolic, a reminder that sometimes the smartest weapon isn't a missile or a drone, but an idea. Ukraine's success sent ripples through the entire front. Russian supply lines were forced to detour hundreds of kilometers, delaying reinforcements and fuel deliveries. Every river crossing attempt after that night was treated with paranoia. Engineers refused to step near water without triple verification. The Dnipro, once a geographical obstacle, had become Ukraine's deadliest ally. At 1:55 a.m., October 9th, 2025, the world witnessed how deception could destroy might. What began as a silent illusion ended as a thunderous catastrophe for Russia. As the river swallowed their tanks and their pride, one truth emerged. Wars are no longer won only with weapons, but with intelligence, creativity, and courage. Zelensky's quiet smile that morning said it all. The fake bridge wasn't just a military victory. It was psychological warfare at its finest. And as Russian armor rusts beneath the Dnipro's cold waters, Ukraine's message to the world echoes louder than ever. In this war, we don't just fight, we outthink.